Brand is that we wanted to fortify this message that we have at ESL, which is that zero to hero story that you hear about lots about, and our tagline being everybody can be somebody, which means really you have these three pillars where ESL has been, players start to play on their PlayStations, on their PCs, and they have this dream of becoming a professional player and playing in a professional team. And there's what we call the amateur leagues, where is that rise, that meteoric rise, to be then eventually hoping and aspiring to be competing in these tournaments here, which we've given obviously in that bottom line. You can see what we might benchmark that as an equivalent. And so those national leagues in the middle are where, if you like, they're the scouting grounds of what these players are playing, and with a hope to be playing in the Pro League and the ESL ones and the Intel Extreme Masters. So that brings us on to the case study. So DHL, we've worked with them for nearly 2 years, and working with the HQ in Bonn and working with the client that recognised that, okay, we work in F1 and Formula E and football and all these sorts of things like MotoGP. They wanted to look at esports. So we started to have the conversation about how they could communicate with these fans, but of course in the right tone of voice, with the right message, and above and beyond, adding value to what the whole experience of an ESL tournament is. So there's 3 pillars of strategy for DHL, and we have this for most of our clients. Number 1, native product integration. That's obviously just making sure that any sponsorship they do has to have some ROI, so they want their core business there at the forefront, which is logistics, which is they hold their hands up, not the sexiest thing in the world, but from a B2B and a B2C, it's got to cover off all the right messaging and telling a story and a narrative about why they're sponsoring esports. What are they doing there? Because esports fans are going to want to know. And if they don't try and make an effort with esports fans, they'll be burned alive when it comes to social media and all these sorts of things, because fans, this is their space, and they're glad to have them there, but they want to add some value to it and communicate with them in the right messaging and the right tone of voice, the right platforms. Doing it through the right sort of messaging. On number 2, exclusive content assets. So how are we going to activate something that the fans are really going to buy into? Which we're going to come on to in a minute, which we could never have dreamed of, but we'll get to that. And of course, unique content and storytelling. Okay, so it's using influencers, ambassadors, people that mean something to the fans, that they can talk in their language and communicate with them in the right sort of balance that is not just a badging exercise that you might get in the traditional world where an LED alongside a pitch is enough for a sponsor. This is about adding a lot more value for that. So we'll play this film now. So for DHL, it was when we started talking, it was about, okay, again, how are we going to communicate with the fans and what sort of messaging we're going to have? At the same time, DHL want to know, you are going to promote our services and use our logistics. So yeah, of course we are. So obviously all the shows and all the ESL, we use DHL as our global logistics partner for all those parts that you can see of shifting everything all over, all the equipment, all the screens, all those sorts of things are transported by ESL and DHL. Integrating those innovative sort of things that the fans are really going to love, because they're all digital natives and they love all the digital world. So how is that going to come across when you activate this and communicate with them about Dota 2 and their love of the game and all those sorts of things? And create some content, use memes, use the social media world, rely heavily on the social media world. You'll have your ads running, of course, on Twitch and YouTube, and those will all be exposed that way. But how are we going to make sure that we communicate with these fans? So Moments That Deliver is something that runs right across DHL's partnerships world, DHL in Motion, sort of these native segments that are going to demonstrate, okay, it's logistics, it's not the sexiest thing in the world, but you know what, we're integrating it into obviously our business, the core business of DHL, and how we do esports and how all the magic happens when it comes to transporting this stuff everywhere. And we do different segments that share on social, share everywhere, and the fans will, but in the language that the fans really want, because that's how you're going to communicate with them, that's how you're going to engage them when it comes to, if they see you at the tournament, they see your brand, they see what you're doing, they see what you're activating, they're going to put two and two together and realize that, okay, well, DHL are making a real effort here, and it works for them.
No matter what your passion is, soccer, rugby, racing, or esports, become a part of the experience with the moments we deliver.
So for fans to see that esports right alongside all those big traditional sports worlds, it got their attention. And it really got their attention in a way that, okay, DHL thought, right, what's the next step? What are we going to do? We've established that we regard esports as a sport and entertainment. Great. And the fans, that's tick one. But now fans are like, okay, we're going to take you in now because you do actually love our sport and you're here and you're from the traditional world. It's good to see you here too. So, started with little activations with an ambassador and influencer, Sir Action Slacks, who was a big Dota 2 player. Came on board as a DHL, all very tongue-in-cheek, dressed as a DHL delivery man. But okay, let's do some competitions, let's do some welcome packages, let's hand out these competition boxes to the crowd, let's do lots of sharing about it on social media. And that kicked off with ESL 1 Birmingham in 2018. And these sorts of things started to get a buzz, and there was something building and bubbling away that before, in the lead up to Birmingham, fans were starting to engage and exchange messages and actually join in the fun that DHL were doing that traditionally they haven't done. And the same goes for our clients like Mercedes and Vodafone. It's encouraging them to have a bit of tongue-in-cheek, not take yourself too seriously, because these fans will rip you apart if you don't engage them in the right way. And these packages were certainly something that started to create a bit of buzz around Birmingham.
When they're finally asleep,
a little bit of
in the dead of the night,
clip from that.
A plan was hatched to make the event feel just right. Understanding it all requires a pretty quick brain.
Just leave it to me. I'm a techie's man.
He had devised a gift they'd never forget. Bright golden packages, rarer than any set. Inside the boxes hid heartwarming notes, made using Slack's knowledge of memes and the don'ts. There was a wide selection of loot with the cards, to encourage each pro to really try hard. With haste, he visited each player's room, knowing the teams would be waking up soon. At last, all the packages made it into the hands of Dota 2 icons from faraway lands.
Oh, no, not me.
His work was done, not a thing had gone wrong.
Finally time to plan the next gyrocopter song. Katy Perry.
Before his new mission, he had time to consider the upcoming major and the moments it'll deliver.
So that's a little clip about that we were seeing online, that we were sharing with our fans and our audiences in the lead up to Birmingham and building some excitement about it, because it was the first event we had at Birmingham. It was a major, and ESL really pulled it off when it came to working with clients and activating the arena there in Birmingham, and it was a great success. And we were there again this year, record-breaking figures for Dota 2. But something happened at Birmingham in 2018 that we weren't expecting. The fans were ready for us, and we didn't realise how ready they were going to be, because they were really engaged with DHL. And then DHL, they have this storytelling with Sir Action Slacks, and he's obviously big on social and all those sorts of engagements. And engaging with the Dota 2 world that are very fanatical about their game and love playing it. And that came about the ESI Bots, which is a truck about this big that goes around the arena distributing Dota fans with Dota gifts and all sorts of ways to activate.
Hello there.
And this is it.
My name is Sir Action Slacks, and I've been promoted to be the floor manager of the Grand Dota 2 Interdimensional Facility here at Hamburg. Gotta tell you, I love my job. Yeah, the line here runs about 6,000 real-world packages per hour. When we move to the digital realm, I'd say we run about 18 billion an hour in Dota 2. That number is about 10 times now, thanks to OpenAI. Thanks a lot, Elon. Healing salves, cheap, efficient healing. Good players get them all the time. Bad players get about 10 times as much as anybody else. There's a lot of bad players. At DHL Sorting Center, we pride ourselves on getting your order from the shop right. But the real heroes, those are the couriers. Not these guys, of course. It's 2018. We've automated that. No more donkeys. Now we use the EFI-bot. EFI-bot's one of our most loyal employees. She's been through 100 low pro games, never died. But that's what we do over here. Try to bring the DHL standards into the Dota universe. Dependable, reliable, we get you your stuff. I want you to be safe out there. It's dangerous, all right? Bye, Effie. Bye. You'll be fine.
So that animation was something that we integrated into the whole event, and that we worked with DHL to say, right, the fans are going to love this. That you're making an effort to integrate your brand and communicate with them in the way that they're used to, and that animation was something that was shown and the fans absolutely loved, and it allowed some storylines, some content that they could really use. So much so that fans took it into their own hands. So the fans went mad for it. I mean, we're not handing out DHL t-shirts. These are guys that are taking it off their own back to go and find DHL t-shirts and wear these to tournaments. And, we would hand out sunglasses, DHL sunglasses and foam fingers. But, they'd be making things out of our parcels for the crowds, and a lot of interaction of what would happen. You'd have DHL on a big screen when we announce our sponsors every so often, and the only ones to get a roar of applause and cheers are DHL when they pop up on a screen every time. So that happened at 2018. It happened again at 2019. And totally unprompted, totally organic, but these guys have bought into what DHL are trying to do, which is reach these guys and love the game as well. So that interaction came with the social media side of things, and the EFI-bot has become a bit of a folk hero, and but at the same time, DHL have got to think of new things of how to interact with the fans, and they'll keep building on that, and we'll keep helping to do that. We'll do it with all of our partners, and Sir Action Slacks dressed as one of the fans will recreate things and create memes and edit things, and DHL are absolutely fine with it. It's great. It's good publicity. And hero pools with Sir Action Slacks and Dream Slacks. It goes on and on and on. And so that justifies when we have our uniques, from the social media and the engagement, the reach per event, Cologne there just going through the roof, and how we interact and how we use our influencers, and those people like Sir Action Slacks are, using their own social media channels to promote it as well, and how that actually reflects off how many people go to DHL In Motion to find out more about the partnership and the sponsorship. DHL In Motion is their sort of designated sponsorship website, where they show who they sponsor and why they sponsor them. And getting that drive of activity and traffic really helped when it comes to seeing where all the activity comes across. So there's a few slides here of just some of the action there and how the fans were really buying into it. These are DHL Drop Cards that they just turn into outfits, and guys turning up in their own T-shirts in their droves, and they've really bought into what it is that ESL is trying to do with esports. And that's lots of activity. More ambassadors that will be handing out parcels at the arena during the 3 days of the tournament, ESL 1, and EFI-bot's always front and centre. So that's the DHL Brand Showcase. Okay. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? No? Oh, yeah.
Because the DHL activation was so successful. Does that work?
Yeah.
Because the DHL activation was so successful, is it not a worry to your other partners, the likes of Mercedes and Vodafone, that they kind of maybe lost out, or that they look at that, they're like, why didn't we have that? Where was that for us? And then they lose a bit of like brand sentiment or positivity, wherever it's
Right. There's always that worry, especially when crowds are cheering every time DHL appears. But all we can do is hold our hands up for starters and say, listen, this wasn't us. This is the fans doing this, and this is what they decided to do. On the other side of that thing is that we'll hand every sponsor a segment that they can take ownership of. Mercedes, for example, will sponsor the MVP, the most valuable player, and the most valuable player at the end of the tournament wins a Mercedes car, which is pretty fantastic, and their product is front and center. So as long as there's like a steering wheel and four wheels on the front and people are looking at it and they want them to be Mercedes drivers of the future, then great. And then Vodafone will own the Vodafone View, which is the real stat heavy, and the mobile series, which we're helping them to do, which is a tournament run on mobile phones to promote 5G. They all have their parts that they have to play, and it's whatever they make from them. But we'll hold the hand of each partner to make sure that they, one, don't feel left out, and two, they take some ownership of something that's going to add value, but put them front and center for when it comes to the partnership. Hi.
Hi. First of all, amazing job. I worked over 10 years in a marketing agency, and really good job. Started from Mercedes-Benz and now with the DHL.
Thank you.
I know that you cannot say, but can you at least hint the budget?
The budget? Oh, I couldn't possibly, I'm afraid.
Not even the zeros.
In terms of the activation or the actual sponsorship partnership?
Anything, just wondering, anything.
It's let's just say it's 6
Just
to
a
7 figures.
typical partnership. It wasn't an extra partnership, or was it typical ESL partnership?
Typical ESL partnership on that level will be, it depends on whether they've had a global sponsorship or something quite local. But a global sponsorship, you're looking at, 6 to 7 figures. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Is that it?
6 to 7, that's a very big range.
I know, but I can't tell you, unfortunately. I would if I could, but I can't.
End of budget. What convinced the client to really give you the trust to do that such a great activation?
Say that again, sorry.
Like, what was the, let's say, breaking point of the client, the brand, who did that leap of faith that, okay, guys, do your job?
Why did they do it like they did?
Yeah, what was the, what convinced them that they said, hey, we go to Esports and we will give you the trust to do and end up with the career in
They were
Dutch,
very
right?
nervous. They were very nervous at first. Most, especially non-endemics, are fine. Intel have been doing this a long time, and the Logitechs of this world, they're fine with this because they're used to communicating with these audiences. But when it comes to a non-endemic, they want some convincing and reassurance that there's, of course, credibility in this space. They're going to get the exposure and the eyeballs that they get from football and F1. And it's showing them the figures, of course, that they're reaching an audience they've never really reached before. We call them the unreachables because they aren't watching, let's say, so much on BBC or Sky Sports or ESPN necessarily, because it's esports they want to consume. So this world of Twitch and YouTube and Netflix, these are the guys that are watching the OTT platforms, and here are the sorts of figures that they have. So giving them some reassurance about what's gone before and how that can translate to their core business, let's say logistics, then we'll give them some ideas and demonstrate how that will work, and if they buy into that, then fantastic. But it's an education thing. My job as Global Brand Partnerships is to go out there and speak to brands or their agencies and educate them sometimes on what esports is and this gaming world and who's out there they're not reaching at the moment and how we can help them reach them. So it's having that credibility as well, I think.
Thank you for
Hi.
the presentation. Hi.
That's right.
My name is Serge. I'm presenting Winners League. We are a much smaller league on Faceit platform. Question: Do you reach out to these non-endemic companies through agency you're working with, or you do direct sales? Like, what's the funnel?
It's
just
both.
curious.
Both. It's both. It's usually what the client or the partner is their preferred avenue, but it's about engaging whoever represents that brand. But we go direct a lot of the time, but we'll speak to agencies as well, because they're all part of the same world, and we have to make sure that they know what we're talking about. And if there's a global strategy that agency looks after, whether it's a sports agency, a media agency, creative agency, they have the ear of the client, then it's a sort of two-pronged approach when it comes to engaging them the right way, and usually they will know. So, but it's also our broad network that we have. My background's Fox Sports, so I'm used to engaging those big FMCG or watch brands or airlines that are engaged in the traditional world, but have they thought about esports and what's going on in gaming? So it's using that contact network too.
Thank you for the presentation.
That's right.
My question is, with regards to partnerships, do you have certain criteria when you're targeting these brands that remain around? Is it a sustainable partnership? Is it ethical? Is it going to benefit the end consumer, i.e. the fans? Do you have certain targets around that, or are you mainly looking at the revenue figures?
We are looking at both. That's a good question. But we want credible brands that are going to have some longevity and bring value to the partnership. We want to have something that's going to last quite a long time when it comes to the storytelling they're going to have. It's not all about the bottom line dollar, because if it's just badging something with a brand that no one's heard of, then that's quite hard work. And the fans have got to buy into it. And the fans want to see these non-endemic brands that they see in the traditional sports world. We want to bring over and say, listen, they are paying attention and they want to be part of it. So we have to have some credibility there and not forget about what the fans are actually really interested in, which is seeing a DHL or a Turkish Airlines or anywhere it might be in this space that is investing into them. So yeah, that's it.
So what are the KPIs for a brand like DHL who are trying to do activations within the ESL ecosystem? So it's good to see people cheering like DHL, but are they trying to make money out of it, or like what is it?
So traditionally for them, it's a B2B sell. They want to speak to corporates that they can entertain and have hospitality and all those sorts of things, which we're working on currently. But to sell their story, they'll go with a B2C angle of engaging the audiences and doing all that lovely stuff where fans are chanting their names, and which wasn't even planned. But for them to have an outward facing of selling e-logistics and their corporate services and their fleet services and their supply chain, all of that is a communication that they're trying to pick up from a B2B and a B2C angle. The end game is to have more DHL customers, whether it's corporate or consumer, but they're very heavily B2B focused, and that's what they'll entertain their own B2B clients and get that sort of messaging across. So it's building value and stock in this world that they didn't have before. And I think they're just trying to tick a box like they do with F1 and football and all those sorts of things. Yeah.
How long did it take from the initial talks with DHL to the first activation?
It took about 4 or 5 months. Yeah, from engagement to the first Birmingham, ESL 1 Birmingham in 2018. Yeah, so it was about 4 or 5 months. Hi.
What's the best time talking to the big non-endemic partners in terms of the planning and budgeting? What will be your advice?
Right now. It's September to December. That's when they're planning their budgets. That's when they are setting out their media plans, their sponsorship, how much money and how much pots are they going to be having. It usually takes September to December when they're planning and looking at their budgets for the following year.
For the 2020?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you. See you.